Please adhere to YouTube's selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals. Alright, so today I'm going to be drinking bourbon for the first time, which I am both very excited and very nervous to do. Before I explain why I am both excited and nervous for this experience today, though, I first off want to thank each and every single one of y'all for 50,000 subscribers on this channel, as this video today is this channel's 50,000 subscriber special. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you so much for watching the videos. Thank you so much for all the kind words and comments as well. I truly do appreciate all of them. I don't want to get too sappy by any means, but thank you so much once again for all the support, y'all. I really do appreciate y'all's support over the last couple months. I've been producing videos on this channel, and I hope you guys have been enjoying each and every single one of them. Thank you so much once again for 50,000 subscribers, y'all. Without further ado, let's go ahead and cover why I'm nervous to drink bourbon for the first time. So why am I? Well, the reason is quite simple. I am gluten-free. I have been gluten-free for around about 10 years now, and it has been, well, around about 10 years since the last time I consumed any wheat, barley, rye, or any other gluten-containing ingredients. And, well, bourbon is made with, well, some wheat, barley, rye, malt, stuff like that kind of thing. Now, I realize that the science says that gluten is distilled out in the distillation process of alcohol. And so from a scientific perspective, I should not get sick from bourbon. However, I did some research. I looked at some gluten-free forums before deciding whether I wanted to actually make this video, and I found out that it seems to depend person to person. Some people who are extra sensitive still get sick from drinking liquor made with, well, gluten-containing ingredients. Some people don't, though. Some people always have an issue, some people don't. It seems to vary person to person, but since I've never actually drank a liquor that contained any gluten-containing ingredients, originally at least, I don't know which boat I'm actually in. And so as such, I am nervous to have this experience today because there's a not zero probability that I could end up getting quite sick from drinking bourbon, and I might very well not be feeling so good for, well, the next couple days or so. If I do get sick, it's not going to kill me by any means. I will just be uncomfortable, to say the least, for probably the next 4 to 5 days or so. That's why I'm nervous for this experience today. I really hope that bourbon does not make me sick, because, bringing us on to why I'm excited for this experience today, I have wanted to try bourbon for quite a while now, for, I'd have to say, probably the last 6 months. Now, I have heard some really good things about bourbon. I've heard it's great in cocktails, I've heard it's great as a mixer, and so as such, I have been quite curious to try it as of late, especially since I've been trying more liquor and alcohols in general, and just kind of exploring the alcohol world. And so as such, I kind of want to, and have been wanting to, just see whether I enjoy bourbon or not, and, well, make videos all about bourbon as well. And so as such, well, I am very excited to finally be trying bourbon for the first time today. I'm finally going to be trying bourbon, and I am honestly very glad that I decided to push through my nervousness of trying it for the first time to just give it a go. Because it very well might not bother me, it very well might bother me. Either way, though, this is still something I've wanted to do for quite a while now, and so as such, I am very excited to drink bourbon for the first time today. But what is gonna be my first ever bourbon? Well, what I've got with me today is a bottle of the 4 Roses Small Batch Straight Kentucky Bourbon Whiskey, which cost me $36.95 at my local liquor store, and for that price I got 750 milliliters of bourbon, with the bourbon inside this bottle having an ABV of 45%, a proof of 90, and what was I going to say after that? Oh yeah, it's also a bourbon that generally has a very positive reputation online, and so as such, I am expecting this to be quite good, I will acknowledge. But that's what the bourbon I'm going to be drinking today actually is. I do suppose without further ado, I should probably go ahead and quickly cover the packaging. Then after that, I should go ahead and get the cap all off, go ahead and take a little bit of a smell of bourbon for the first time, then pour some in my glass I've got right here, take a sip of bourbon for the first time, and find out just what I think of bourbon and whether I like it or not, based off this one experience at least. But as said, first off, we've got to quickly go over the packaging and just go over the look of the bottle in general. And overall, in my personal opinion, this bottle looks quite nice. We can see it starts off very thin up here, but then gets quite wide and then thins out again towards the bottom. And we can also see it's very, very, very wide on the front to take up more shelf space and be more prominent on the shelf, of course. But when we look at the side, it is actually quite thin. Taking a look at the cork, we can see on the top right there are 4 roses. That is, of course, the 4 Roses logo. And the overall shade of the cork is very much that of dark stained wood, I'd have to say. Below the cork and below the glass right here, we can see there is a little bit of a beige band. And on that beige band, we can see the 4 Roses logo once again being made up of red, a little bit of black, and a little bit of green, making up some leaves, and going around that there is indeed a gold line as well. Pretty nice look if I do say so myself. And taking a look below that, we can see the actual logo for the front of this bottle. We can see the actual 4 Roses logo and just front of the bottle design itself. And we can see that this entire sort of label right here, which is just glued on or taped on, just has a border of gold going all the way around it, and the overall background color for this label is that of a beige, I'd have to say. On the very top right here, we can see it just says 4 Roses, and that is all embossed, which is something that I do appreciate. Going around the text, which is all in black, and which has a little bit of a sort of, I'd have to say, slightly reflective, sort of glossy look and texture to it. But going around the black text, we can see that there is indeed a gold border, which I would have to say combines very well with the beigeness of the label itself, making it where you don't really see that if you're not paying too close of attention. Then under that, in the middle of the logo, we can see on the glass itself, we get the 4 Roses logo just right here, front and center. And that is something that I honestly really like to see. It's not just on the label, it's actually part of the bottle, and I think that is pretty cool, and it's something that I have not seen on an alcohol bottle quite yet. I have not seen the actual logo itself for an alcohol brand not only being integrated into the bottle, but also being integrated into the label on the bottle itself. Like, I've seen like the logo for alcohol brands being like on the back of the bottle, like over here or something like that, just kind of on its own, but never integrated into the actual like label itself. Like, that is really cool, and that's something that I like to see. Moving on below this sort of logo slash design right here, we can see it just says small batch right there in black once again, and there's a little bit of gold to either side right there. And then under that in gold, we can see there is a line right there on both the top and the bottom of this text, and in the middle it just says Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, established 1888, master distiller. And I can't read that very well, I will acknowledge. I think it says Bert Elliott. I'm not exactly sure though, I will admit. And then under that, we can just see all of the information you might want to know about this alcohol and about this bottle. It just says 45% alcohol per volume, 90 proof, 750 milliliters. And that is pretty much all there is to the front of the bottle. One other thing to mention is that this whole front of the bottle is indented just a little bit. So this is flatter than the back, which is a little bit more round, I would have to say. But let's go ahead and take a look at the back of the bottle now that we're already back here. And we can see, once again, we get a label with a sort of beige background to it and a gold border going all the way around. And we can see we get the barcode right there. Just says 4 roses small batch, recycle, and then it just tells us the notes. It says the notes for this bourbon is supposed to be rich, ripe fruit, delicate baking spice, and mellow oak. And then it just says distilled and aged by 4 Roses Distillery, LLC, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. And then under that, we just get a government warning just right there. And that's pretty much all that's going on the back of the bottle. Definitely a more, I'd have to say, simple and elegant look to this bottle than not. And that is something that I do appreciate. I will acknowledge. Anything going on the bottom? Not really, just says 750 milliliters. Has a nice sort of texture to the bottom so it doesn't slide all around. And overall, I'd have to say, I like the look of this bottle a little bit more so than not. So certainly, no complaints on my behalf. Without further ado, y'all, let's go ahead and see if I can get the plastic all off of the cork, if I possibly can. I'm just gonna move this back just a little bit just for the time being so I can showcase my struggle with getting this plastic off, I will acknowledge. Let's use my knife. I'm just gonna cheat and use my knife. Let's do that real quick. Just cheat and use my knife. Always easier. There we go, there we go. Easy peasy. Once I use my knife, everything gets easier. I'm gonna go ahead and put the plastic in my backpack. Can't be littering or nothing like that, of course. And now I'm gonna go ahead and put my knife away. It's a Kershaw Scallion, a 1620 FL to be precise, if y'all are curious as to what it is. Let's go ahead and now get this cork all out. Just very carefully. Ooh, that was a nice pop if I do say so myself. And let's just put that down on the table and let's get to smelling bourbon for the first time. Interesting, interesting. It smells, on one hand, different than liquor I've tried before, but on the other hand, not all that different. Like, when it comes to liquor, I am most used to rum. And rum sometimes has a more sort of, well, fruity smell to it with like vanilla, caramel, stuff like that. And while the smell of this bourbon is not exactly the same as rum by any means, there's a bug getting in my face, it is not dissimilar. Which is very interesting if I do say so myself. I'd have to say smell-wise I'm getting alcohol. I'd have to say, like, fruits. Not quite like tropical fruits, but like a mix of, I'd have to say, like apple and pear in my personal opinion. Maybe a little bit of apricot as well. And then I'd have to say, I know on the back of the bottle it says some baking spices, but I'd have to say that's about right. I'm smelling, I'd have to say, a little bit of cinnamon. I think a little bit of caramel and a little bit of vanilla. Overall, smells very interesting if I do say so myself. Let's go ahead and pour some in my glass just real quick. I think I'm just going to leave it at that for the moment. I did accidentally drip some down the side, but that is a-okay. It is what it is. Go and put the cork back on. Snapped on very satisfyingly. No complaints on my behalf. Well, let's go ahead and put this over to the side now, and let's just see if the smell is any different in the glass than it was in the bottle. Not majorly different. Not majorly different. Still getting, I'd have to say, a fruity smell. I'm just looking at the notes that it's talking about. It's saying rich, ripe fruit, delicate baking spice, and mellow oak. So there's a sort of baking spice flavor, woodsy-like flavor, and a fruity-like flavor. And there's a bug that's really, I think, wanting the sugar of the alcohol right now. It's kind of flying around the bottle just a little bit. It's like a big mosquito. But overall, smell-wise, yeah, very interesting, very interesting. This really doesn't smell like all that different from some higher-end rums I've tried in the past. It definitely smells very good quality. I'm not getting a sort of super intense sort of alcohol-y or like paint thinner sort of smell. Not really getting any of that, I'll acknowledge. So that's definitely a sign of good product right there. Although I don't know if that's something that really bourbons get in general, I'll acknowledge. But yeah, smell-wise, I'd have to say I'm getting sort of a fruity smell, which is that of sort of a little bit of like Granny Smith apple, pear, apricot. And that's kind of what I'm getting. Maybe a tiny bit of peach. But I'd have to say predominantly like apricot, pear, apple, a little bit of peach. That's kind of what I'm getting mostly when it comes to the fruity smell. And then I'd have to say definitely getting just a hint of cinnamon, a hint of brown sugar, a little bit of caramel, and a little bit of vanilla. And then, am I getting any sort of a woodsy smell? I wouldn't say I'm not. It's not intense, but I would say it's probably in there. Very interesting. Very interesting if I do say so myself. Well, no complaints on my behalf. Well, I do suppose without further ado, y'all, I think it's now time for me to go ahead and actually drink bourbon for the first time. Some bug bit the back of my neck. It's a little bit itchy, I'll acknowledge. But I think without further ado, it is now time for me to go ahead and drink some bourbon for the first time, find out whether it's something I like or not, find out whether it's actually going to make me sick or not, and just see what I think of bourbon based off this one experience at least. I'm going to start off by just taking a very small sip, if I do say so myself. Without further ado, let's give it a go. Yes, sir, and I'm saying. Ooh. 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 Good amount of spice. A lot of spice. Wow, that was very hot in the back of my throat, and I took barely any of a sip. That was more spice. Maybe it was just that sip. Maybe I just swallowed it wrong. I'm not sure. But that was a lot of spice. That's more spice than I've gotten from rum. That's more spice than I've gotten from tequila or mezcal. Wow. Wow. That's a lot of spice. That's a lot of spice. Dang. Definitely just right off the bat, there's cinnamon in there. I could definitely taste some cinnamon. I could definitely taste brown sugar, caramel, vanilla as well, without a doubt. And while I'm not really noticing any sort of a woodsy smell, or not smell right now, taste right now, and while there is a little bit of fruit in there, it's not super prominent as of this moment in time, just because I'm just basing this sort of what I'm basing what I'm saying right now off of the first sip, of course. I can definitely say there is a fruity smell in there, or a fruity flavor in there. And yeah. Very interesting. Wow. Once again, good amount of spice. Good amount of spice. Wow. Yeah. Maybe when they said baking spice, they really meant spice. Yeah, that's spicy. Wow. Not bad. Not bad by any means. Definitely enjoyable. I'm enjoying this. The flavor is really nice. It's not actually like super rough by any means either. It's quite smooth. And I'd have to say, like, mouthfeel-wise, the mouthfeel is surprisingly light. Tequila can definitely be a heavier mouthfeel than not, in my personal opinion. Rum doesn't always have to be, but can certainly be a heavier mouthfeel than not. This, on the other hand, I'd have to say is a little bit lighter. And it kind of just falls off the tongue, I'd have to say. And while there is an aftertaste, it's definitely not as prominent of an aftertaste as some tequila or rum can be, which is very interesting. Yeah. Ooh. Very interesting. Now, I do want to acknowledge, I have tried whiskey before. Never bourbon, but I have tried whiskey before. What I tried in specific was the Platte Valley 100% straight corn whiskey, which is only made from corn. That whiskey, I enjoyed, I'll acknowledge. This definitely has a more layered taste to it. The Platte Valley was definitely more one-dimensional. Not bad, just one-dimensional. But this is definitely more layered, in my personal opinion. And, excuse me. When I tried that whiskey, the 100% straight corn whiskey, I was told that it's not particularly respective of whiskey as a whole. And I didn't doubt it, but I didn't know exactly what they meant because that was the only whiskey I'd ever tried before. Well, now I get it. Yes, that whiskey is definitely not bad, but it's also certainly definitely not respective of whiskey as a whole, kind of thing. And now that I've got a sip of the nectar, it's gonna be really hard to put down the cup, I ain't gonna lie. Because now that I've tried this, I'm like, I want to try some other bourbons now and see how those are too in comparison. I want to try like Buffalo Trace, maybe try some Evan Williams, stuff like that kind of thing as well. And eventually try some like Japanese whiskey, some Scotch, some Canadian, some Irish, and just some other whiskey varietals as well, I'll acknowledge. Whether that happens or does not happen will be decided by whether I end up getting sick from this or not. If I end up feeling not very good later on today, I'll know exactly what did the issue, exactly what did it. Because I've been eating nothing but normal stuff I normally eat that I know doesn't bother me today on purpose. So if something bothers me, I know exactly what it's going to be, and it will have been this bourbon. If it ends up bothering me, this bottle, I'm not going to be drinking the rest of it. It's going to go to a friend. But I'm hoping that it doesn't bother me because I'm not minding this. I'm not minding this, I'll acknowledge. Not at all. Not at all. There we go. Got a sip that was a little bit smoother. I'd have to say, mouthfeel-wise, it's very light and almost creamy. It's a light and creamy mouthfeel, which is very interesting. And taste-wise, I'd have to say I'm getting that of a... I'd have to say taste-wise I'm getting that of brown sugar, caramel, vanilla, cinnamon, with undertones of, a little bit of a fruity sort of flavor. I'd have to say more apricot, peach. Nah, I'd have to say just predominantly apricot. There's really, unlike on the nose, where I was getting like apple, pear, peach, and apricot, it's more just sort of apricot-y than anything in my personal opinion. Maybe it's just me, but there's definitely a little bit of pear in the background as well, but it's predominantly just apricot. And then I'd say under that, I'm definitely getting just a sort of woodsy-like flavor. And on the back of the bottle, it says mellow oak. I wouldn't say it tastes like oak. I would just say it doesn't taste like cedar. I don't really know what oak tastes like in comparison to other woods besides cedar wood. I can definitely tell cedar wood in a flavor. That's very easy. It just tastes as it smells, frankly put. Oak wood, on the other hand, I'm not exactly sure. But I can say the taste of this bottle is layered. It varies sip to sip. And it's definitely something I don't mind, by any means. I like the flavor of the Four Roses small batch. I can confirm. I do, yeah. Yeah. No complaints on my behalf. None at all. So what am I thinking? Am I liking bourbon based off this one experience at least? I'm playing a dangerous game right now. So far, yes. The mouthfeel, different than I'm used to. Not in a bad way, in a good way. The flavor is, I gotta admit, similar yet different than what I'm used to. The Four Roses, in all honesty, I mean, like, it's different than what I'm used to when it comes to rum, but it's not all that different, frankly put. And maybe that's because some of the rum I've tried has been aged in like X bourbon barrels and X whiskey barrels and stuff like that. That could be part of the reason. But it's really not all that. I mean, like, excuse me, it's definitely different. The main difference between what I'm noticing right now between this bourbon and like rum I've tried is really mouthfeel. That's like the biggest difference for me. That and spiciness. This is definitely smoother than bourbon in my personal opinion. At least this is definitely smoother than bourbon. Get my words all jumbled up. This is definitely smoother than rum, or at least a lot of the rums I've tried. Not like some of the higher end ones, like let's say Mount Gay Black Barrel or Appleton 12, for example. But this is definitely smoother than a lot of cheaper rums, I will acknowledge. Now, granted, this is a $36.95 bottle of bourbon. It is generally considered to be a mid-range bottle of bourbon, like Appleton 12 or Mount Gay Black Barrel is in the rum world. So it's not terribly surprising that this is, I'd have to say, probably about the same roughness as those. Although it's definitely, that kind of just hits the back of your throat a little bit differently. There's not quite as much of an alcohol hit. I wouldn't say it's rougher or smoother. It's just got a different alcohol hit. But definitely smoother than some of the cheaper rums I've tried, without a doubt. Very interesting. Really, the biggest difference, though, really is mouthfeel. Definitely with, like, tequila, you get sort of a syrupy, sort of agave nectar, almost sort of mouthfeel. With rum, you get I'd have to say, sort of heavier mouthfeel, just due to the fact that it's made with sugar or molasses or both. And that's just a heavier, more viscous substance in general. But with bourbon being made with corn, wheat, rye, barley, malt, stuff like that, it's all grains, so it's lighter. And I can definitely tell that this is definitely lighter. It's got a sort of creamy, almost sort of, I'd have to say, light. It's got sort of a light, creamy mouthfeel to it that honestly is not all that different from like the mouthfeel flavor you get from like something like, let's say, corn. And that would probably be because, well, bourbon is a predominantly corn mash, no, isn't it? I'm not an expert on bourbon. This is just my first ever time trying it. I just did some light research about it before this video, but that's what I heard, I think. Yeah. Overall, I'd have to say, oh, now that I'm thinking about it, there might be a little bit of corn in there. A little bit of corn, like almost sort of creamy buttered corn. There's and maybe it's just mouthfeel, but I feel like there's definitely some of that in there. Well, I finished off my cup. I'm going to talk about just kind of what I think the flavor is now that I've finished off. Probably a little bit less than a shot's worth of bourbon. So what do I think of the Four Roses small batch? How do I think it is? And what do I think it like tastes like, and what the mouth feels like, and what the roughness, smoothness of it is like, and whatnot. Taste-wise, I think the Four Roses small batch has a flavor of creamy buttered corn with undertones of brown sugar, vanilla, a little bit of caramel, and a little bit of cinnamon as well. And then under that, I think that there is a very slight sort of apricot pear-like flavor that is a little bit sweet and is a little bit fruity overall. And then I'm thinking under that there is some wood. Kind of, not quite smoky, but it kind of comes across like charred wood, in my personal opinion. Like it's lightly charred kind of thing. That's kind of how it comes across. And that's very much what the flavor of the Four Roses small batch Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey is, to me at least. That's what I think the flavor of this whiskey is, based off of this one experience, at least I will acknowledge. Overall, definitely a flavor that I enjoy, and thankfully, a product that so far is not making me sick. Now, generally with me being gluten-free, gluten don't hit till like 4 hours later. So we'll find out in 4 hours if I'm still feeling all right. I'm feeling just fine right now. thankfully. Not breaking out into hives and not needing an EpiPen or anything like that. Not that I would need an EpiPen. I don't have an allergy like that. But, man, not bothering me right now. Feeling great. Got a nice, very light buzz going from the alcohol. No complaints on my behalf, I will acknowledge, none at all. Overall, based on this one experience, I'd have to say that I, Jacob Jones Money, very well might like bourbon a little bit more so than not. Yeah, I definitely want to try more bourbon now after I'm done with this bottle, if this bottle doesn't bother me. And I definitely also want to try other whiskeys now. I do got to make sure, there's one thing I've got to be really careful of with whiskey and just liquor in general, and that is wheated whiskey and wheated bourbon. A lot of Maker's Mark is wheated, from what I've heard, where they add wheat back in afterwards. So that's something I've got to be really careful with. I don't believe Four Roses is. I looked it up to make sure it's not. I couldn't find anything saying that it was, so I believe we're all good. But just got to be really careful about that. I'm not going to be able to try any like wheated whiskeys or anything like that kind of thing, because those will contain gluten. Even though the gluten was distilled out in the distillation process, it was then added back in afterwards. And I've also got to stay away from like flavored whiskey and stuff like that as well, because a lot of the flavorings can contain gluten. However, as long as I do my research and I ensure that what's there has no like additives or anything like that kind of thing besides what was distilled, if this doesn't bother me, I think I might be all good. I think I might be all good to try more in the future. If this doesn't bother me, I'm very excited to try more in the future. Definitely want to try Scotch, Irish, Canadian, Japanese whiskey. Oof. Yeah, this stuff is definitely making me want to try more bourbon, I'll acknowledge. Bourbon's expensive. I'm not going to be doing bourbon videos a lot. It's really expensive. But might have to do some every once in a while, I will acknowledge. Overall, though, yeah, I think I can say I don't mind bourbon by any means, and as long as it don't bother me, I definitely want to try more in the future. That is for sure. Before I go ahead and end the video, I want to grab a screenshot, give Four Roses Small Batch a rating, in my personal opinion, and I think that's about it. So let's go and grab myself a little bit of a screenshot for the thumbnail of this video real quick. And let's do that. Got to make sure I get a good screenshot for the thumbnail of this video, of course. So let's do that real quick. Let's do that real quick. Hopefully one of those will do as a screenshot for the thumbnail of this video. Worst case scenario, I can always grab another one after this video. But what was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh yeah, I wanted to go ahead. I gave you guys kind of what I thought the Four Roses small batch was actually like, but I didn't actually cover whether it's something I enjoy or not, and I didn't actually cover the rating I wanted to give it. So do I enjoy the Four Roses small batch bourbon? Based off this one experience with it, I most certainly do. Based off this one experience with it, I most certainly do enjoy the Four Roses small batch, I will acknowledge. Seems to be pretty quality bourbon, based off this one experience at least, and based off of my experience with other liquors. It seems to be just a pretty quality liquor in general. Lots of nice depth to the flavor, and you notice more as you continue drinking. A little bit of spice in the back of the throat for sure, but a very nice, smooth mouthfeel. Very easy to sip on in my personal opinion, although I have had easier liquors to sip on in the past. Overall, pretty solid in my personal opinion. I would definitely have to say that I do like the Four Roses small batch, and if I do end up trying more bourbon in the future, it's definitely one that, as long as I continue enjoying it after having tried other varieties, I think I wouldn't mind picking up another bottle of this in the future, and I most certainly will enjoy drinking the rest of this bottle right here, as long as it doesn't make me sick, that is. If it doesn't, though, if it doesn't make me sick, I'm going to enjoy drinking the rest of this bottle. Overall, I'm thinking the Four Roses Small Batch deserves a very solid... Well, it's only my first experience with bourbon, so this might change, but I want to give it a very solid low 4 out of 4. So, probably I'd have to say a 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4 out of 4, something like that. Not absolutely my favorite liquor I've ever had, but still something that is very solid, still something that I really enjoy, and still absolutely something that I would absolutely drink again and would absolutely buy again, just based off this one experience. So yeah, 4 out of 4 for the Four Roses Small Batch Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of bourbon. Do you guys like Four Roses Small Batch Bourbon as well? Do you guys think I chose a good bourbon for this video today? Let me know in the comments down below. And also, thank you so much once again for 50,000 subscribers. I really do appreciate all y'all's support. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching today's video. If you guys have enjoyed watching today's video, of course, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content. I have my Instagram, my book, my merch, my P.O. Box, and my other channels, all in the description down below. Go check them all out. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video today. And until the next one, stay safe and peace, and have a great one. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying?